The BMC AMZ Talk and CompuWare Modern Mainframe podcasts have joined forces. You can find your favorite episodes from both podcasts, as well as new insight and discussion at soundcloud.com/modern mainframe. CompuWare is now BMC CompuWare, providing a complete app dev toolkit which enables you to make the mainframe as adaptive as any other platform and start your journey to becoming an autonomous digital enterprise with a mainframe-inclusive DevOps toolchain. Hey everyone, welcome to the Modern Mainframe. I'm Matt Delaire. In today's episode, we're going to try something new. We're calling it fIveQ. In each fIveQ episode, I'll ask a guest 5 questions about the mainframe, DevOps, Agile, their own careers, etc., in an effort to gain some insight into the wide world of the mainframe. We have a fitting guest for our first fIveQ episode, CompuWare ISPW product owner Mark Schettenhelm. Mark's been with CompuWare over 30 years in a variety of roles. And if you read the CompuWare blog, Enterprise Executive Magazine, or dzone.com, you've probably seen some of Mark's writing. He's now branching out into podcasts. In addition to the Modern Mainframe, Mark was recently a guest on Peter DeJager's podcast discussing Y2K, and he has some more guest spots lined up in the near future. He has a wealth of knowledge to share, so I think this is going to be a great episode. So without further ado, hey Mark, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Matt. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So I'll mention right up front, since I'm making the rules, I reserve the right to ask additional questions, but I'll try to go easy on you.
We did not agree to that. It was 5. All right, hit me with your best shot.
There's a small clause. It's in the fine print. So the first question, what do you see as the most important issue in mainframe development today?
Wow. So it's just, the most important. Well, really, at the heart of it is to, not be complacent. I think we really need a sense of urgency, and I see a lot of people just being complacent, and they're like, that's the way it is, that's the way we've done things, or they may feel that mainframe development has reached the apex, that this is it, we've got it. But what we need is more of that sense of urgency, and that there's more to learn, and we can improve the way things are done. And I've been really turning my distributed colleagues to relearn lessons. They've taken a lot of the practices we all agree on, things like automated testing and code reviews, automated code reviews, code coverage. We all say in the mainframe world, yeah, sure, that's a good idea, and I tried it 10 years ago. They actually do them because they've enforced them in pipelines. So it's just to get out of that rut, and I see it so often. People are just maybe beaten down, maybe they just are afraid of change. This can be an exciting career, and that's what at least attracted me to it is the possibility of change and improving and doing things better. So I know maybe that's a long answer to your question, but I think it's really important. It is this complacency. We need to snap ourselves out of it and learn from others and get excited and re-engaged in our careers.
Right. That's a great answer. So I'll move on to number 2. How is mainframe development and the environment around it different today from when you started out?
Well, vastly different, and it can be vastly different and better. But going back to my first question, I still see some working as if it were 1981. Right. So for some people, nothing has changed in the almost 4 decades, but a lot of things have really, really changed. There's just so many tools available to us now. I keep thinking, wow, if only I had this. I think back of things that took me weeks and months to do and the problems I had. If I only had that, life would have been so much easier. So the tools available are better. And some of the tools are ones that we had then, but are just so much better now. The interfaces, Eclipse, for example, are just so much easier to use than the fixed 3270. having the space and the ability to drag a view over to another monitor, well, multiple monitors. I remember having to sign up to use a 3278 to work on, and I would only get a couple hours a day. But now that you could have 2 or 3 monitors and have some code over there, and then the structure chart for it on this one, edit data on a third one, um, things like that make our life so much better. Having chat apps to make communicating so much easier with colleagues. It's great if they're in the next cube and you can just go and ask them a question. But oftentimes today, our technology has enabled it so they're not in your next cube. And particularly in this time when we're all working from home,
Right.
it makes it a lot easier to just pop out a message. And then when the other person can respond, they can get it. Or you can send something to the team and they can go and jump on it, and you can crowdsource ideas rather than you sitting there for hours struggling alone that we used to do. I can now say, I wonder if someone has an idea on this, pop it out there, and in minutes get an answer back. It's all these things that really make a difference. And doing things like screen share. So you can say to someone, well, here's what I'm seeing here. Let me show you that. It's something we take for granted today, but it's a huge
Yeah.
improvement. So many things. It's, again, getting your mindset open to change and using them, getting on the latest releases of your software. That makes a difference.
And really to wrap both of those up, a lot of people are resistant to change, but once they dive in and make the change, like you said, you start taking things for granted. You just
Right. And also having that mindset, it's a self-feeding, self-reinforcing behavior that you go, wow, I stepped out of my comfort zone. I tried that and I tried Eclipse and wow, that was really good. I wonder what other things might make my life easier.
So speaking of making life easier, you've been with CompuWare more than 30 years. What kind of adjustments did you have to make in transitioning from waterfall to agile development?
Wow, that's a great question. I actually wrote about this in my column in Enterprise Executive, so maybe we can put the link for that. But
I will.
I went in how that's changed. Now, in a way, it's the same things that I do have done all along, but I now do them all the time. So let me explain. There's a phase in the development cycle where you gather ideas and you go out to everyone, okay, what ideas? What do we need to do for the product? Then you put them into requirements and then you refine them. And then you may research them a little bit. And then you get to, okay, now we're going to have code. And then you code them. And then there's a code review and testing. And then there's packaging. We used to do that in a year or up to 18-month cycle. And so you might get to, well, now's the 2 months where I gather ideas. And now's the 2 months where we do this. And oh, now we're testing. Um, Now we're doing all of those all the time. In each 2 week sprint, we're doing those. I'm constantly looking for new ideas and evaluate them. There's no cycle of now I'm doing it, now I'm not. That is a constant. Um, we're always doing refining them. I'm always writing stories. Research is always going on. We're doing all those things all the time. It also, I think this is overlooked, keeps us fresh, and that these different skills, since we were always doing them, we're always improving on them. It isn't like, oh, well, I only do testing in that 2 months. And then I go, wow, that's a real pain. Well, yeah, I should do something. And you don't think about it until next year. We're
Right.
doing these things all the time. That means we're always sharp in ideas. We're always open to looking for improvements because if I don't fix that problem I had in this sprint, I'm going to face it in the next sprint. So we're much better about adding new test cases and improving things.
Uh, so how does ISPW encourage or facilitate agile development?
Well, many things. First off, the way that you can set up separate development paths so that you can have multiple people working on code at the same time in different legs, with each knowing where the other is in the life cycle. So if I have to, and this is something that actually kind of goes back to your last question, when we went from waterfall to agile, before under waterfall, someone says, oh, I need to work on that code. And they say, oh, you have it checked out. Okay, well, I'll wait for you. I can wait a couple weeks till you're done. I'll work on it. Now, everybody's working on things all the time. We often get it where multiple people have to make changes. So with ISPW, it's easy to have a dev one leg. You put something in there, someone else needs to work on it. They go into two, or you could set up three or more, and then they can move those through the life cycle, and they can easily see that someone else is working on it. Oh, they promoted it. Let me go pull their changes down. It's set up to allow that multiple people working on things, and everybody knows what the other person's doing, so there's no chaos. Everyone's informed. So that really works. That's part of it. I think the other thing is all the APIs that we have, which have enabled pipelines so that we can automate a lot of tasks, so that once something is completed and maybe promote it to the next step, we can run through a code check on it. We can, and it can bounce it back and say, wait a minute, that's a problem with the code. We can also promote it to the next level, do the compile, and then run an automated test. And then you can find out immediately that there's a problem. Rather than waiting until the end of the sprint or end of the quarter, you can get immediate feedback thanks to all the APIs and the webhooks that we've put into ISPW.
Let me interject a little personal anecdote. We work together on blog posts and articles, and you like to use shared Word documents.
Yes.
Which I resisted, but I have found in talking about version management that when I'm sending offline documents to people and they make edits and then somebody else makes an edit, it's pretty easy to get lost on which one you're working on who changed what, on am I working with the original, am I working with a new one? So you've definitely taught me a little bit about that and about using the online documents. So
yeah, thanks, Matt. And that's actually a great analogy to help people understand the difference. With ISPW, it is like that you have that one version you're working on. Everybody can see it. Everybody knows what's going on with it. But you could have other versions of that also that everybody knows about. And it keeps track of it rather than just having them float around and no one knowing. So yeah, version control is essential, and ISPW has mastered that for Agile development.
So through webinars and blog posts and the podcasts, and we talk a lot about test automation, but how does automation throughout the SDLC benefit organizations?
It's like adding a whole slew of new developers. It's automating all those tasks which are essential, but they add a lot of value. But having a person do them manually doesn't add the value. I'm talking about you check in everything for the day, and at night the automated test is run. We have that. So I come in the morning and I want to try the new build and test out some things. And if it failed, then they fix it and they run it and I get it later in the morning. But it's someone working at odd hours. So it's adding extra people, extra headcount. Or like you can go off and eat lunch and that test will run or the code check will run. And these things don't make the mistakes that we do. If we try to do manual testing, it's inconsistent and it's mind-numbing, and it's a kind of like, why am I doing this? Those tools don't think that way. They just do it, and they don't make those mistakes like we do. To me, it's when people say, I don't know how to meet the demand, I say just look to adding on extra resources through automation and setting up those pipelines. So you have automated testing, the automated code checks. Those types of things, or code coverage, can make such a huge difference. That's a real force multiplier and help you meet your goals in time. I don't know how we would do all the things we do without the automation. Well, we just couldn't. And the quality wouldn't be there. People say, well, if I go to Agile in 2-week sprints, I won't have time for testing. And I say, well, yes, the way you do it today, you're absolutely right. You won't. You need to automate.
Right.
If you put in those tests every night and every quarter and every sprint, you'll be able to meet your goals. You'll be able to actually improve your quality.
Well, that's it for the 5 questions, but let me check. Yes, it looks like you qualify for the bonus round.
Okay.
Are you ready? So say you're the interviewer. What question would you ask someone else who works on the mainframe?
I only get one, huh? I'm not like you.
Yeah.
I don't get extras. Okay.
We'll see.
I'll better make it count then. I guess it would be, why are you afraid of changing methodology? Is how we are doing things so good? Perfection? What is stopping you from changing and benefiting from new technology and methods? I know that's more than one question, but I'm going to stand by it.
I'll let you get away with it. And those are questions that people could really benefit from even asking themselves.
Just to think about it. Again, it's complacent. I think we all get into, oh, that's the way it is. And I ask people to think, what if I could be better? What if, it can't be perfect. What can I do to improve the process and make me feel better about my job and getting more done? What can I do to make my life better? And the options are out there.
So one last question, just so we can go out on a complete non sequitur.
Okay.
What's your all-time favorite TV show?
Wow. Yeah, I am a Trekkie. But as far as favorite, I think the TV show that was most meaningful to me and really changed my life and made me think about things, which is different from just, occupying my mind for an hour,
Right.
was a Canadian show called Being Erica. It involves really therapy and time travel, but it made me think about the decisions we make in life. It's about a woman who has a list of all the bad decisions she made in her life, and she's given this magical ability to go back in time and try it over again. And she finds out that it isn't always that easy. And it made me think about things I've done in my life. And so it was very meaningful. It really, to me, kind of goes back to some of the things, I guess, what we've been talking about before, in going through and trying to always improve the process and not just accepting it. That's the way it was.
Well, that's a great way to get all back around. So we're all out of questions. That wasn't so bad, was it?
No, relatively painless.
Good. Well, thank you for being here. Thanks for taking the time. And I think you covered some really good stuff.
Good.
So to everybody listening, thank you for joining us. Be sure to keep an eye out for new podcast episodes in the coming weeks, and we'll see you next time on the Modern Mainframe. Take care. The BMC Amy Z Talk and Copyware Modern Mainframe podcasts have joined forces. You can find your favorite episodes from both podcasts, as well as new insight and discussion at soundcloud.com/modern mainframe. Copyware is now BMC Copyware, providing a complete app dev toolkit which enables you to make the mainframe as adaptive as any other platform and start your journey to becoming an autonomous digital enterprise with a mainframe-inclusive DevOps toolchain.